up and listen to people, right? I listened to him and I was like, okay, you are ready to let go. And because I knew he didn't want, he was clinging on, I offered to him, okay, would you like to watch porn uh, as we sleep together? You know, that's the test. You see, this is how you set boundaries, you know, because I knew where I stood with porn. So he said yes, and we slept together while he was watching porn. And that also, in watching porn, it shows me the inner world of the person, and I saw, right, because it was the same behavior with the mentality in Benin. He had the same superficiality in terms of contrast, right? Just like Derek. But that's, again, you have to watch the other videos. So in that moment, as he finished, right, it is then that I exposed his manipulation with his colleague at work and him clinging on to me just for release and trying to control and lie to me, you know. And in that moment, he curled up again. He curled up in fetal position and started crying. And in that cry, I sensed that his intention was not to hurt me. His intention was just to give a shot. You know, he was in love. There was nothing wrong with it, you know. And still, he could not let go of me. But he could not let go because he didn't want to hurt me, you know. So I calmed him down and I expressed to him that I had no resentment. Actually, I was excited. I was relieved because it dissolved. That release dissolved the guilt that I had in manipulating him, in sleeping with him. So after and I allowed him to release by crying, and then I expressed to him that I genuinely want him to give this colleague at work a try, because he has expressed, he has talked about, we talked about the people we were in love with. This is the type of relationship we had, you know. I will talk about Derek and how much he meant to me, and he will talk about his colleague at work and, you know, how much he meant to him. So this collaboration kind of released a lot of things within us. And throughout the whole relationship, he has been really trying, you know. He would tell me at times, you know, I'm not Derek. And I'll be like, yes, I know. Yeah, you know. And he would try to understand, you know, his ego was desperately trying to matter, you know. And every time I would talk and express, you know, the love, you know, I had for Derek to him, you know, he will constantly tell me, I am not Derek. And with a smile, I'll be like, yeah, I know. I know, you know. So in him doing that, right, he kept bringing up, because up to that point, I still did not know that Derek was my twin flame. I didn't even know what a twin flame was, right? All I wanted was just to set myself free, because I didn't understand why I felt so strongly for this guy, right, Derek. I couldn't understand. Something was not right. I have never felt like this before with a guy. Yes, I was in love when I was young, but like the intensity I was faced with was so destabilizing, you know. So as Victor will keep saying, I'm not Derek, you know, blah blah blah, then he will add on. He was like, so you were always attracted to me, right? You always wanted to be with me. I'm like, sure, yeah. You know, I didn't want to fuck this up, because, you know, at some point I was like, I manipulated this guy, right? What can I say? You know, he was desperately trying to matter to me. And, I just, yes, the aspect of myself that Derek has seen, no other man has never seen it. No man. It's impossible, right? Because I have never been in love with anybody else, right? So I was observing Victor trying desperately to make a mark in my heart, but it was amusing and it was adorable. So when we separated, because yeah, after that night, and he cried, and I encouraged him to reach out to his colleague at work and really give this thing a try. But even in hearing the relationship, because I knew, right, the love he was talking about was just not there, right? It was a concept, not truth, right? Um, so I told him, you need to go, you need to face it to really know, because if you're just afraid and you keep, pacing yourself around it, you're wasting time, because love is the path, right? So we parted ways the next day. I wish him all the best, and I went my way because I knew what I needed to face about myself. It is then that things started surfacing, like some truths were starting to surface about my relationship with Derek. And I knew I had to face it now that I had some quiet. So we parted ways. And we reconnected a while afterwards. And it is then that he communicated to me that the colleague he was in love with was just, pretending in order to get his vote for some sort of election. And as he has voted for her, she just disappeared and abandoned him. You see, this is the manipulations that he has surrounded himself with that keeps being expressed, right, to him. He's expressing the manipulation a lot of his feminine aspect has been imposing onto him, that trauma, which made me, feel compassion towards him. And it is then that he told me he was dating another single, divorced woman, and that she was non-complicated, and she was easy, and she would come and she would do as he wished, and then she would leave again. And I was happy for him. I was like, wow, this is great, And I will share with him new discoveries I have made in terms of spirituality, but he was no longer interested. So we left things there, But eventually we got back in touch, because I think and then he told me that he had to let go of that lady he was dating, and he was asking if I had more psychedelics, which I didn't, because things were shifting for me. And I will expand on psychedelics later, because I will expose also the addictive behaviors, those navigating those experiences come with, right? But that's for another day. So it is then, as he called, and I was like, I don't have any more psychedelics. I gave you all, the last time we saw each other. It is then that I observed that he was like, yeah, you and I will sleep again together. And I was like, buddy, it will never happen again. You see, this is why, you see the test, the blockade. Once someone is blocked, it's blocked. There's nothing to do, right? So he was like, yes, I will sleep with you again. And I was like, no, that's not gonna happen. And he was insisting. He was like, yes, you and I, and he was affirming, because his ego, this is how he's been, with the women he has been surrounded with. He imposes himself. It's like that control. But, for me, like I said, these These ego who have not transcended yet. For me, it's like those limp dick when they try to slap you. It's like a massage. It's like, and I slapped him hard with my golden dick. You know, it is in that moment that I told him that he meant nothing to me. You know, I love him, but you know, he's not Derek. That's why I know him. I was like, I'm in love with Derek, you know. Or it is through that experience, you know, in letting go and having some quiet, that's when I had to face the fact that, you know, the inside that Derek was my twin flame surfaced. You know, I had to have the detachment to be able to observe, you know, why it was so hard for me to navigate my relationship with Derek and what was happening. So it is then that I have expressed to him that I am in love with Derek and he's the only man I am interested in, and that I had slept with him in order to get rid of Derek because Derek has made the choice to stay with his girlfriend and his family. He needed that detachment, and the only way I could do it was to sleep with him. So I spoke truth. Finally, that truth came out. And it is then we left things off. He was like, oh, I see. Okay, well, good luck. You know, so we parted ways. We haven't spoken. But then after a year, you know, and it's very interesting because after my divorce was completed, the first year during the holidays I had with my daughter, the first holiday, I spent the holidays with my sister Kali, right? And it is then that she threw me out of her apartment during the holidays with my daughter. So that created distress. And the year after that, I spent the holidays with my sister Cheska, right? And you can go see how that developed as well. So that third year, as we approach the holidays, you know, it's been a year since I have spoken to Victor. He contacted me again. And he was like, Jan, do you have some psychedelics? You know, I know I haven't spoken to you, but, you know, I was wondering. And I was like, no, I don't have. But, you know, if I come across, I will just reach out to you and let you give you some. And oddly enough, I got a link sent to me. There's an online store that sent me a link about sell on psychedelics and stuff. So I was like, that's interesting. So I just forwarded the link to Victor, and I said, look, you can buy it online, and sometimes they even deliver it to you. So why don't you call them and figure this out on your own? And he was like, thank you, and blah, blah, blah. But he said, can you do it for me? And I was like, you know, I mean, because he wasn't sure if he was legal in his state. And I'm like, it is legal in your state. You are not doing anything wrong, right? So why don't you educate yourself? Why don't you educate yourself and contact them? And if you contact them and it's not possible, you know, you just let them know to deliver it to my place, and I will mail it to you, right? So he said, okay. And then he continued. He kept coming, you know, maybe, you know, thank you, Jan, but can you, you know, so I was confused about his approach, because it is then that I understood that he was trying to spend time with me during December. So I called him because he has this tendency of hiding when he's texting, you know, he hides. So I sensed it. So I decided to just call him. And as I called him, his first expression was that, Jen, you are a very disagreeable person. Yeah, you know, with all this manipulation, wow, the audacity. I laughed. I was like, okay, you know, what is it that you want, And he was like, I just want you to help me with this. And then if you can help me with this, then I will help you as well. Okay, so we know what that means, right? Because when Victor talks about help, he's only talking about sleeping with you, because he has mentioned that. I mentioned it in my other videos about when I was building a website and I was expressing to him if he has any experience with it, if he can help me. It is then that he started saying that, he has friends and he can connect me with them, and then I can help them in return. And it is then that I understood energetically what he was trying to convey to me to do, to sell, to exchange it by selling my body, basically. So as we were talking, and he expressed that I'm a very disagreeable person, and I was like, dude, I'm trying to help you, right? I forwarded you the link because you've reached out to me that you wanted psychedelics, right? Here you go get it. And he was like, but Jen, I asked you, can you please help me? And then I'll help you as well. I'm like, I don't need help. I'm good, at that point, I had expressed to him that I'm going as a celibate. I don't want to go out there. I am discovering certain things about celibacy and solitude, and I'm facing certain things about myself, and I wanna dig deeper, So as he kept saying, please help me, and then I'll help you. Then I told him straightforward, no matter what you do, okay? No matter what you do, you will not come and visit me in December. And he was like, why? And I said, because I want to be on my own. And he was like, why? It just is. And as he kept talking, and I saw the manipulation, something, Party Pooper Jen came out. And it is then that I spoke truth to him about how I viewed him for all these years, how he had triggered me, and the way he manipulated women, and the way he uses women. The rage came out, and I told him everything about, and I exposed him. So he hung up. Yes, he hung up on me. He ran away. He was like, Jan, I shared those things with you, openly, and now you are using it against me. I'm like, I'm not using anything against you. I'm showing you what it has taken from me to stand by you, okay? Because you are incapable of seeing who I am. So I'm showing you, but he was incapable of seeing. So yeah, Party Pooper Jen came out and put some things into perspective for him, and he got scared. This is all I have to do, is just point out the mirror. This is what you're showing me. And when people are faced with their own energy, they run away and they hide, So he hung up on me, and then in the evening, he came back out. He came back. Yeah, my presence speaks for itself. Yeah, he came back out, and he was like, have you calmed down? Yeah, have I calmed down? I was like, yeah. Have you? Because I have set you free. I'm not understanding why you're reaching out to me again. And that was it. That's the last time we have spoken, Victor and I, And oddly enough, as I went through my journey, right, at a point, the insight this year came in May 2024. The insight to call Derek was given to me. And as I was given this insight, I resisted, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to call this guy. I am finally free. I was starting to get back on my feet, and, I have set boundaries with everybody, and I was starting to finally, I was growing. So when this insight came to call Derek, there was a lot of resistance. I was afraid, you know. And I was like, I had this conversation with my heart. I'm like, no, he's not even gonna pick up. I know, you know. I know it was a reflection of me, you know. When it's closed, it's closed, you know. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to be friends. He just and I felt the resentment that was sent to me, you know. So again, when you build this connection with your heart, you cannot run away, right? When you get the insight to do something, no matter what, you're gonna face it. So I called Derek and he didn't pick up, right? And I was like, there, you see, I did what you told me to do, and he didn't pick up. So I hung up and I was so emotionally overwhelmed, like just giving that call and feeling that rejection. Again, brought up emotions that I was trying to, again, you know, it was overwhelming. And I had to sit in meditation. And in sitting in meditation, Derek called back. Yeah, that was interesting. Like, he called back. So I picked up and I was like, hey, how are you? And he tried to present the fact that that he had moved on and he was unaffected. I was like, okay. And I was starting to talk and I was like, you know, I have been through a lot. I have realized certain things are surfacing on my end. I am discovering certain things about my childhood and I just wanted to express certain things to you. And then he interrupted me and started like, you know, telling me about his outrage in me sleeping with Victor. I was like, oh. How dare I did this to him, that Victor was like his brother, he was like his best friend. And as he was saying that, I was like, wow, this is growth, because I felt unaffected by it, right? I was seeing that everything I have communicated to him in all our conversation, he has understood nothing of what I have communicated to him, you know, because I sent him some messages to explain. Throughout our whole dating, he understood nothing, you know, and that exposed the superficiality of our relationship. And my response to him was like, I feel like I'm happy about this conversation because I am seeing that him and I, for the first time, are really speaking truth, you know. And it is then, as he kept going, I realized the guilt I felt in watching Victor struggle in telling Derek that he slept with me. I felt that same guilt as Derek was expressing his rage. And in Derek expressing his rage towards me, I observed that it is then that the perspective, I have always blamed this guy for never sharing anything with me. But in listening to him, it is then that I realized that it was me who never shared everything with him. I was the vault, you see? Yeah, we mirrored that to each other. I was the vault. So after that conversation, you know, as he was saying these things, I told him, I'm not even understand why he's doing this, he's saying all of these things, because all he wanted was girls like Sarah and Patty, you know. And as soon as I said that, he was like, that's it's not what you think. And then I said, what is it then? And as usual, he had to go. You see, it's like, how can you state you love somebody when you can't speak truth? You see, the pattern repeated themselves. So I let him go. But as that conversation ended and I sat in silence and I had to face myself, because this was just a conversation with myself, right? I realized that even in sharing, I had never even shared the death of my mom with Derek until I was in my 40s, right? Until I was trying to get out of my marriage. We state that I have never felt safe and trusted him, right? So how can he feel safe and trust me if I am not open about what I have gone through? So it is then that I have forwarded him the letter I wrote my dad, which I will share later, so he can get a general sense of where I was. I shared with him the letter I wrote John, and then I expressed to him to give him my perspective, because I have asked him. I told him I have asked you to let me go. You were not talking to me. You went silent. You disappeared. I have tried to set you free by changing my number, by blocking you, by doing all these things, and I couldn't do it. So I called you and I asked you to set me free, because obviously you needed time to be to deal with your family, right? But I will not be trapped and locked into position, because I have been through that in my marriage. So I told him this. So I manipulated Victor. Victor has done nothing wrong. Okay, I manipulated him because he was going through some hard time, and I felt he was vulnerable, and I used that as an opportunity to free myself. I sent him all of that. And a few emails with John, and emails, letters I sent my aunt. So I gave him a perspective of everything I was going through, and that was starting to get revealed to me. Nothing. He said nothing. And that was the fire I needed, because in that rejection, right, in facing that detachment, there was a detachment that happened, right? And that was May of this year, right? So that detachment, in processing that, right? That's when July hit and I got fired, right? And I was going through that day, and I reached out to Derek again, right? He did not pick up. It was very interesting, because truth has been spoken about my past and what I have endured, right? And as I was going through my rough patch, and I reached out to him, he was not there for me, right? And that was needed to further let him go, right? And it's in watching the journaling I made in why I had to let my twin flame go, that it's like you have to appreciate the process, because even in watching that video and detaching, it is then that the insight that as I faced the betrayal of Derek at 19, and he has used Victor to assist him in that betrayal, right? Because this is he as he left me on the roof of that party, right? His statement was, "I am leaving you in good hands. This is my best friend. He's like a brother to me. He will take good care of you," right? So as I felt that betrayal, the wheel of karma has been in place. So the only way out, right? Because I was still wounded, I held on to that betrayal. And as Derek, we were going out, after my divorce, and that wound, I tried to bring it up, and he couldn't face it, right? The only way out was through Victor, right? And this is what I say is karma. Whatever you impose on other people, with the intention, you will be faced with that same experience. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, right? So as Derek, faced that same betrayal right, that he has put in place, because he trusted his heart, me. He entrusted his heart to this best friend, this brother that he called Victor, right? And as so the karma has been set in place. There was no other way to get out of it, right? So as he faced that same betrayal to this same brother, and he was incapable of sustaining, because when he betrayed me at 19, right, that betrayal came even after my sexual abuse and after the betrayal I faced with my father, right? So the amplification of what I have gone through emotionally, the letdown was so devastating. And still, after that, I remain friends with him. You see, my presence speaks for itself, right? So as he faced that, and for him and I, it's like he had made his choice already, right? So in navigating and looking out for myself, right, in detaching and going through this best friend of his, right, he was incapable of, and I offered my friendship afterwards. I was like, yeah, you wanted to return to your family, so I returned you to your family. I found the detachment I needed to return you to your family, so we can stay friends. That way we can navigate this relationship from a different aspect. He was incapable of sustaining it, right? He abandoned me, he punished me, he lynched me. And yes, so it is then that perspective came to me. And it exposed even further the superficiality of this love that I was holding on to, and this is the lesson, right? We cling on to people who devalue us, who have this incapacity to appreciate our value, our presence, because they have not yet faced their own fears, right? And basically, I was talking about myself, right? Because it exposed the conditionality of my own love. I had to let that version of myself go, So it took navigating all of this and even doing the journal about why I did that to even observe it. And in confronting that, even then, it brought me back to the fact and to observe Victor, that I as well considered as a brother, to see the type of manipulation, how he had tried to hurt me, how I had held on to this energy, but I was incapable of really seeing, the damage and the hurt and what I was binding myself to. It is